my favorite movie here. I will describe the American horror movie, The Boy, today. Beware of spoilers. Take care and be cautious. Greta Evans departs for the United Kingdom after being employed as a wealthy family's nanny. Upon her arrival, she immediately slips off her shoes and looks around the mansion because the owner is gone. The appearance of Malcolm, a male, surprises her. Malcolm frequently visits as a neighborhood delivery person. Malcolm then extends Greta a tour invitation. Mrs. Heelshires, an older woman, appears shortly after. Wife of the property owner. Where are Greta's shoes? Inquires Mrs. Heelshires. Greta clarifies where. She has taken off her shoes and is shocked to see they are no longer there. Casually, Mrs. Heelshires says, most likely, her son did it. Then Mrs. Heelshires extends an invitation to Greta to meet Mr. Heelshires. She also introduces her to the young kid in her care. However, to her amazement, this boy turns out to be Brahms, a porcelain doll. She chuckles, believing it to be a joke. But Mr. and Mrs. Heelshires appear to be in a serious mood. Mrs. Heelshires informs Greta that many nannies had. They applied, but Brahms rejected them since they were neither young nor attractive. The Heelshires instruct Greta on how to care for Brahms and leave her with a set of stringent guidelines. To proceed. This includes speaking clearly and loudly while reading to Brahms, playing loud music for him. Set a mousetrap, put the leftovers in the fridge, and kiss Brahms goodnight. Mrs. Heelshires informs Greta that Brahms is bashful and only speaks or moves when no one is looking. Then Mr. and Mrs. Heelshires inquire about Brahms' thoughts about Greta. Greta feels odd about what she notices for solitude. Mr. Heelshires closes the door. Soon after, the two of them emerge and inform Greta that Brahms enjoys her company and wants her to watch him. Greta calls her sister to inform her what happened in the house. The following day, Greta overhears Mrs. Heelshires, who is upset because Brahms is playing raided his bedroom. Then Mr. Heelshires appears and announces that they are departing for a holiday. Greta and Brahms alone. Mr. Heelshires displays a handful of Greta's upcoming schedules. Greta starts breaking the rules when they leave, leaving Brahms alone. Greta awakens in the middle of the night to weird noises, and she quickly searches for the origin of the odd noise. As you stand in front of an artwork, unexpectedly, a hand. He is about to suffocate her when he emerges from a wall. It ends up being a nightmare. When Greta later enters Brahms' room, she notices that he is crying. It is discovered after closer inspection that the ceiling is leaking. That evening, Greta unexpectedly receives a call. Nobody talks when she picks it up, though. Malcolm shows up early to deliver. Greta inquires about Brahms as they are shopping for groceries. She learns from Malcolm that Brahms was once Mr. and Mrs. Heelshires' sole kid was a real boy. But one day, their house caught on fire. Brahms perished in the fire after being unable to flee in time. Simply a coping mechanism, the doll. To help the family process their loss. Malcolm follows up by inviting her on a date. Night. Greta concurs. Greta makes preparations for the date. She spoke to her sister on the phone. Greta closes the door after noticing that Brahms is observing her. Greta goes on to wash up. She is shocked to discover that her outfit and necklace have changed, as well as her hair are absent. When Greta hears weird noises, she is drawn to the attic and immediately runs to seek it. As she ascends the ladder, the attic ladder automatically closes. Greta is kept confined. Greta cries out for aid when Malcolm arrives to pick her up, but Malcolm ignores her. Not aware of her. Instead, he makes his exit. Then Greta tries to find an alternative exit. Then, shockingly, a giant shadow materializes in front of her face. And she collapses. When Greta awakens in the morning, she is uncharacteristically let outside. Malcolm hears her out. What occurred the night before? The ladder can open and close by itself, as it turns out. Malcolm responds to Greta's latest inquiry regarding Brahms by saying there are two rumors around the composer. Some residents of the town are sympathetic to him since they recall him as a. Even though some people think the youngster was nasty, he was a very good boy. Greta makes another call to her sister later that evening. Her sister alerts her to her aggressive behavior. Cole, an ex-boyfriend, has been attempting to locate her. Greta despises Cole to the core. Greta miscarried after being assaulted by Cole. Then Greta prepares for bed by brushing her teeth. She just finished cleaning her teeth. From Brahms' bedroom, she hears an odd sound. She comes closer. Brahms' room is also quite disorganized, with many documents lying around. She straightened Brahms' crooked skull. Then all of a sudden, the head starts moving on its own, but it's only another nightmare. The following day, Greta visits Brahms' room and notices that he has switched places. He sits with Greta's schedule next to him as though commanding her to comply and carry out his instructions. Scheduled. Greta, startled, rushes to her room and attempts to phone her sister. The phone abruptly rings. Greta hears a child's voice telling her as she answers the phone to abide by the rules. A child's voice can then be heard as a shadow appears under the door. Now, Greta. She realizes that the doll is far more secretive than she first thought. The beauty has life in it. When Greta answers the door, she finds a tray of food that Brahms had given her, including sandwiches. Greta's emotions at that time are conflicted. Brahms reveals that he has no desire to harm her. He merely desires her attention. She then tells Malcolm about it over the phone. Malcolm, though, doesn't regard her seriously. Later, Mrs. and Mr. Heelshires have seen writing. "We cannot bear to live with what you have become," the letter to Brahms reads. "The female is now belongs to you." Mr. and Mrs. Heelshires pack their coats with rocks after finishing this letter. And end your life. Now that Greta is aware that Brahms is simply the. When a little boy's spirit starts to wish to be taken care of, he begins to be kind to Brahms and complete the tasks assigned to her. Malcolm arrives the following day carrying a letter from Mr. and Mrs. Heelshires are here. Additionally, he invites Greta on a walk that evening. Greta, however, is now. Malcolm's invitation is declined since Malcolm feels responsible for Brahms. Malcolm departs in disappointment. Greta A. Brahms, who can move about on his own, was then taken aback. Greta invites Malcolm to visit the following day to demonstrate that Brahms is alive. She initially struggles to demonstrate it because the doll only moves when no one is looking. She then abandons the doll, and it begins to move. Malcolm eventually comes to believe her. Malcolm spends the night with Greta. Spending time together is what the two are doing. Yet they were active. It is halted by Brahms, who might be envious. The two of them then discussed in the kitchen. When Malcolm notices that Greta is becoming romantically involved with him, he warns her by sharing a more thorough account of Brahms' passing. As far as he is aware, when he was a child, another young lady his age named Emily Cribbs and Brahms used to play together. When Brahms turned 8, Emily left the Heelshires estate to perform with Brahms and never came back. Her skull was crushed when her body was found in the woods. The police arrived at the scene at. Brahms was discovered dead while trying to enter the boy's blazing mansion to question the youngster. Malcolm concludes that Brahms' spirit, which rests in the doll, might be wicked. Cole, Greta's violent ex-boyfriend, arrives at the estate in the morning with the intention of drive Greta home by force. Malcolm stays close by to ensure Greta's security. At nighttime, Greta queries a doll for assistance. When Cole awakens, he discovers a letter telling him to go that was scribbled in blood. He feels enraged, thinking Greta or Malcolm may have been responsible. Realizing Brahms was responsible, she attempts to explain it to him with rat blood, but he doesn't trust her. Malcolm eventually joins them and tries to persuade Cole that there is a lot. The doll is more complex than first appears. Cole crushes the beauty to pieces in a frenzy of rage. The home's lights start to flicker at this point. The house begins to tremble and, behind the barriers, they can hear sounds. Cole makes an effort to locate the source of the noise. The mirror suddenly blows up. Cole catches up. Behind it, a man emerges from a hole. It turns out to be the real Brahms, now an adult, wearing a porcelain mask with the doll's face. After beating Cole, Brahms murders him. Fearful, Malcolm and Greta flee for their lives. Malcolm and Greta find Brahms' room. They discover a doll constructed from Greta's lost garment there. Brahms' bed is covered in jewelry and hair. Brahms had been observing Greta all this time from that room. Greta also discovers the Heelshires' farewell letter, which reveals their strategy of not providing Brahms with Greta as a partner. Later, Brahms locates them. Brahms defeats Malcolm, expressing a threat to kill him if Greta departs. Greta can leave the house, but she goes back to help Malcolm. She grabs a screwdriver, invokes the law, and makes Brahms go to bed. He begs for a goodnight kiss, but she stabs him when he attempts to kiss her. Although Brahms tries to choke her, he falls to the ground as she drives the sword deeper. Greta saves Malcolm, and together they leave the house. Brahms can be seen putting the doll's pieces back together in the movie's last scene. You are implying that he is most likely still alive. All of this leads us to believe that Brahms, it never actually passed away. He was always a sick child and killed Emily in the end. Cribs at age 8 years old. His parents torched their own home to protect him from the outside world, and pretended he had died before concealing him behind the walls of their opulent home. It also illuminates Mr. and Mrs. Heelshire killed herself. Their love for their child eventually lost out to their remorse. They decided to put an end to their pain. There are several hints scattered throughout as well. The length of the movie leading up to the big reveal. The film starts with Greta is informed of the house rules by Mrs. Heelshire, who makes it plain that Brahms likes loud music. This implies that music is present on the walls because Brahms is there, or anything read to him ought to be loud enough to be heard through the walls. Additionally, the Heelshires appear to take great care to keep pests out of their home. They highlight that she must maintain the mouse traps so that no mice are attracted to them. Of the mice get into the house's walls. Mr. Heelshire also informs her that they save. The fact that Brahms receives all of their uneaten food is rather evident. Mrs. Heelshire informs Greta that Brahms is bashful and only moves when no one is watching. This demonstrates that the doll was never genuinely moving independently. Instead, it was moved, by the inhabitant of the walls, the actual Brahms. That is how I would explain the movie, The Boy. For more content like this, subscribe to Enable Alerts and click the like button to support the channel. I appreciate your attention.